6 in the morning, and my hands won't do what I tell them. I'm trying to twist the cap off a water jug, something I've done 10,000 times without thinking, and my fingers just slide. No grip behind it. I stand there in my kitchen, and I laugh, because everybody's got a line ready for this. They'll tell you that's just age. That's just what happens. Except, that's a lie. And here's the truth underneath it. By the time your hands go quiet like that, the fire's been burning for years already, and nobody ever told you to watch for the smoke. That's not old age. That's a quiet fire. And I'm going to show you 6 places it shows up in your body, one at a time, so you can catch it while it still costs you nothing to put out. I've buried more elders than I want to count. And I'll tell you the ones who lasted because somebody taught them young to watch their own body the way you'd watch weather coming in. That kind of watching, passed down elder to grandchild for generations in the community I come from, is not something you learn in a doctor's office in 15 minutes. It's something you're handed. And modern life, with its pace and its screens and its packaged everything, has made most people forget how to read it. So here's the belief you've got backward, the one this whole video is going to take apart. You think your stiff knees and your foggy memory and your dry, cracked skin are 6 separate complaints, 6 separate annoyances of getting older, each one needing its own pill or its own cream. They're not 6 things. They're one thing, wearing 6 different masks. And once you see the one thing underneath, you'll never look at your own body the same way again. Here's why the obvious response is the wrong one. When your knee aches, you rub it. When you can't sleep, you take something for that, separate from whatever you take for the ache. When your memory slips, you write more notes. Every single one of those responses treats the smoke and ignores the fire. And that's the trap, because it's the reasonable thing to do. Researchers who study aging have found something important here. Your calendar age, the number of years you've been alive, and your biological age, how old your body actually behaves, are not the same number. One can run years ahead of the other, quietly, with no single moment where it announces itself. It just builds, 1 degree at a time, underneath a life that still looks normal from the outside. And here's the moment it turns against you. It's not the day your knee finally locks up or your grip finally fails on that jug. It's every ordinary day before that, when the fire was already lit and you had no reason to go looking for it. The reason it works that way is simple, and I'll show you exactly what it is. Here's the lie, said plain. Aging isn't a light switch that flips overnight. It's a low fire lit under your skin years before you ever feel the heat of it. A body that only watches for pain is already behind, because pain is the last thing a quiet fire ever announces, not the first. Now here's who knew better. Long before anyone had a name for what's happening in your joints and your skin, several nations, unconnected to each other, working with nothing but what they could hunt and render with their own 2 hands, arrived independently at the same answer for the same complaint. Choctaw people rendered bear fat for what they called nita and worked it into sore, swollen joints. Haudenosaunee families used it the same way, for aching joints and irritated skin. So did the Natchez, the Apache, the Dena'ina up north, the Huron, the Sauk. Each one an ocean of distance from the others, each one landing on the same fat, rendered the same patient way over a low fire, rubbed into the same aching places. Written accounts from outsiders passing through as early as the 1700s noted this same practice among tribes who had never compared notes with each other, and most of those outsiders wrote it down as a curiosity and walked right past it. That's not coincidence, what those nations landed on. That's the same quiet fire, showing up as smoke in 6 different lives and 6 different peoples reaching for the same water to put it out. There's a runner's name that belongs right here too, and I'll come back to him before we're done. So here's the method, handed down in layers, and I want you to actually do these, not just nod along. The first layer is your hands, because the hands are usually the first place the fire shows itself. Test it honest, right now, if you can. If your grip feels weaker than it used to, that's not vanity. That's your body's earliest warning system, tied to muscle and nerve health that researchers have linked straight through to your heart. The people whose hands stayed strong into old age were the ones whose hands never stopped working, and I mean that plainly. Tanning to hide the old Ojibwe and Cree, or working river cane and willow into a basket the way Hopi and Pomo weavers still do. Keep your hands working something real every single day, and that first layer holds. The second layer is your walk, and this one sounds almost too simple to matter, which is exactly why people skip it. Your walking pace slowing down is one of the earliest, most honest signals your whole body gives you, long before a doctor's chart shows a thing. The Hopi carry a saying inside their running tradition that to run is to pray, and for generations running was medicine to them as much as movement, believed to banish unhappiness and put strength back into a tired body. You don't need to run marathons. You need your walking pace to stay fast enough that it doesn't quietly slow down without your notice. The third layer is what's sitting in your joints. And here's where the fire gets literal. Stiffness that lingers longer than it used to, soreness that takes an extra day to fade, an ache that settles into the same spot and won't fully clear. That's not just wear and tear. That's inflammation building faster than your body can put it out. Coast Salish peoples of the Pacific Northwest, the Muckleshoot and their neighbors, built entire lives around salmon and wild berries, foods we now know carry the exact fats that fight this same low, quiet inflammation. You don't have to live on a river to use this. You need that kind of fat and that kind of berry showing up in your week, not your someday. The fourth layer is your skin. And here's where our weapon comes back around. That quiet fire shows up on your skin before it shows up anywhere else you can see it. Dry, slow to heal, cracked at the knuckles. This is the exact complaint bear grease was rendered for, by hand, over a fire, by 6 unconnected peoples who all noticed the same thing. The fifth layer is your sleep. Waking up in the middle of the night for no reason, or waking up tired even after enough hours in bed. That's not just stress, that's a body running hot instead of cooling down the way it should overnight. And the counterintuitive part is this: the fix isn't more rest, it's the opposite. It's controlled movement during your day. Because a body that never works hard enough in daylight, rarely sleeps deep enough at night. And shallow sleep feeds the very fire you're trying to put out. The sixth layer is your memory. The fog that isn't just a bad day. It shares the same root as your joints. The mistake almost everyone makes is treating these six things as six separate problems instead of one fire. And that mistake alone is what lets it burn the longest. So here's the answer to the question I asked you to hold on to since the start. How can a weak grip and a slow walk and stiff knees and dry skin and bad sleep and a foggy memory all be the same thing? They're the same thing because your body runs on a low, constant simmer of inflammation your whole life. Small and useful when you're young. There to heal a cut or fight off a cold. But somewhere along the way, in every one of us, that fire stops going out completely between fights. It just keeps smoldering, quiet, underneath everything, in your joints, and your skin, and your gut, and your brain, all at once. Scientists who study this gave it a name only a couple decades back. They call it inflammaging. The slow burning together of inflammation and aging. And they found it sitting underneath most of the conditions that come with growing older. Not as a side effect, but as a shared root. Here's the tell, the part that actually explains why this sneaks up on people who are otherwise paying attention. Each of the six signs feels small and forgivable on its own. A weak grip, you shrug off. A slower walk, you blame on tired legs. Dry skin, you blame on winter. None of them alone feels like an emergency. And that's exactly the cruelty of it. Because the years when catching this early would matter most are the same years. None of the six signs feels urgent enough to chase down on its own. By the time all six show up together, loud enough that you can't explain them away one at a time anymore. The fire's usually been going a lot longer than anyone would like to admit. That's the mechanism. That's why your hands, your walk, your knees, your skin, your sleep, and your memory were never six different problems. They were smoke rising off the same low fire in six different places. And once you know to look for the fire instead of chasing the smoke, you can't unsee it. Now here's why nobody ever sat you down and told you this straight. It's not some boardroom deciding to keep you in the dark. It's quieter and sadder than that. Once you could buy a cream for dry skin and a pill for sleep and a supplement for memory, one at a time, off a shelf, nobody had a reason left to teach the whole picture. The old knowledge of watching your body as one connected thing got traded away, piece by piece, for a convenience that treats every symptom like a stranger to all the others. Here's the honest proof, the kind you could go check yourself. A Hopi runner named Louis Tewanima carried his nation's running tradition all the way to the Olympic Games, taking home a silver medal in the 10,000 meters back in 1912, after finishing 9th in the marathon 4 years before that. That wasn't raw talent falling out of the sky. It came out of a running tradition his people kept alive for generations because they believed it kept a body strong and a mind clear for far longer than it had any right to be. A belief modern research on movement and aging keeps circling back to. And here's the honest word, the caveat I owe you before we close. Reading these six signs in yourself doesn't mean disaster is coming. Most people who notice one or two of them are nowhere near serious trouble. And fear, was never the point of this video. Attention is. But I'll tell you plainly, every single person that quiet fire ever got the better of believed, right up until it caught up with them, that they still had plenty of time left to notice. So here's what to carry home, small enough to fit in your pocket. Watch your grip. Watch your walking pace. Feed your joints the fat and the berries they're asking for. Watch your skin. Move enough in daylight to earn real sleep at night. And stop treating your memory like it lives on its own island, separate from everything else. And here's the bigger truth underneath all 6 of them. Those 6 signs were never really about getting old. They were about a fire nobody ever taught you to watch for, burning low and slow, long before it ever asked for your attention. You weren't failing by not catching it sooner. You just never had anyone hand you the way to look. Now you do. That's not old age anymore. That's just a quiet fire. And quiet fires can be put out if you catch them early enough and you know where to look. So, I'll ask you this, and I actually want to know. What's the one thing your own grandparents or your elders knew about taking care of the body that you think the rest of us have forgotten? Tell me down in the comments. I read every one of them. Next time, I'm going to show you the one plant nearly every nation on this continent reached for first, long before anyone called it medicine, and why it's probably sitting forgotten in your own yard right now. Until then, keep your fire low and your eyes open.